Good evening, it is the witching hour and you're listening to Exe Files Paranormal Radio on Phonic FM 106.8 and www.phonic.fm if you want to listen online. Good evening and welcome to the show. We have a very special guest this evening. Bigfoot hunter Jackie Tonks is on the show and she is in the studio. Hello, Jackie.
Hello, it's great to be on again.
But before we speak to Jackie, we have got some news from Richard. Oh, and by the way, that was Jackie's music. She's going to be talking a little bit about her playlist, which she has brought. That was Nightwish, Beauty and the Beast. She's going to be talking about beasts, Bigfoot, and beyond. But before then, Richard, take it away with some weird news.
Get off me radish. Mutant butterflies in Japan. Researchers have discovered genetic mutations in 3 generations of butterflies near Japan's crippled Fukushima site that was destroyed by a tsunami in 2011. These mutations have spread rapidly after their discovery in 2012. The radiation in the fallout caused smaller wings and damaged eyes. These mutants have been mated with normal butterflies in laboratory conditions. 18% of the offspring exhibited these abnormalities. According to Joji Otaki, associate professor at Ryukyu University in Okinawa, by the third generation the mutations had risen to 34%. Researchers additionally collected 240 wild specimens from the area. 52% of their young exhibited the mutations, a dominantly high ratio. In an experiment, these lab butterflies were exposed to low levels of radiation and exhibited the same rates of mutation. In 2015, the effects on humans were exposed after a study found that thyroid cancer rates in children were 3 times greater in Fukushima Prefecture than anywhere else. Boy awakens from coma addicted to eating cheese and swearing. A 15-year-old boy from Chesterfield has woken up from a 9-day coma, swearing prolifically and eating whole wheels of cheese. Doctors were forced to put Kai Thomas in a coma when he recovered from a brain bleed last year. He recovered the ability to move and speak, but was left with 2 weird side effects. He's addicted to cheese and can't stop swearing, said his mum Tracy. He always liked cheese, but now he's obsessed with it, he even adds it to his cereal. The youth also speaks in strings of expletives. His mum added, "We asked the doctor about it and apparently it's quite normal for people to develop inappropriate or aggressive behaviour after waking up from a coma. So while that explains the swearing, no one can explain the cheese." Can anyone explain the cheese? Britain's most haunted house is up for sale. A former medieval prison said to be Britain's most haunted house is up for sale at £180,000 a snip. Vanessa Mitchell from St Osyth near Clacton-on-Sea claims that her home is haunted by a satanic goat and now wants rid of the property known as the Cage. The house also hosted a witch trial in which 8 women died. Vanessa says she has seen blood spatters appear on the floor and a tall dark figure standing between her and her son's cot. She also claims to have footage of a satanic goat. I've seen a still from this, it looks just like a white blob. Vanessa bought the Cage in 2004 for £148,000 and was unaware of its reputation. So she's only asking for £2,000 more than she paid for it. And you get a free satanic goat.
What other kind of goats are there?
Non-Euclidean ones, tentacled ones, blasphemous ones.
I guess there's the
Fainting goats.
Yeah, I guess so.
There's a breed called
you would know, Richard, right? I mean, you, Richard and Jackie Tonks, you both would know. What other kind of goats are there besides satanic goats? To me, they're all satanic. I mean, Lovecraftian, satanic. That's satanic.
They have moist haunches and slippery udders.
Well, there you go. That's what I'm saying, you know. Yes, thank you very much for that, Richard. That was excellent. Very strange, weird news indeed. Welcome to the show, Jackie Tonks, Bigfoot hunter.
Hi.
Hello. Jackie is here to tell us about her recent trip to the USA. She was there going to conferences and hunting for Bigfoot, and she's got lots of interesting stories to tell. And she's going to tell us a little bit about her background as well. And thanks, first of all, for that song, Nightwish. That was great, Beauty and the Beast. And we were just talking with Mike from the Mike and James Rock Show on previously about how Nightwish has sold out at Wembley this year, and that they've...
Yeah, I mean, I think they're an amazing band. They can sort of transform themselves all the while. They can reinvent themselves. I think they're going to keep going for a good long time, I think.
Yeah, that's really cool. So thanks for that. Any particular reason for that track?
Obviously, Beauty and the Beast, which is classic tale. I mean, that's the non-Michael Crawford singing of it, which I much prefer. It's just that the whole concept of the fear of the beast, really, I think it goes back through time, doesn't it? And and the Bigfoot is a classic example of that. There's different reactions to it, and one of them is fear. The others, inquiry and sort of excitement. It's always there's always that fear, massive sort of 8 foot, 10 foot high ape that's carnivorous as well, omnivore, is gonna have that fear aspect.
It's interesting though, but Beauty and the Beast has a kind of sort of sexual aspect to it. She marries the beast, basically. She's into the beast.
Yeah.
Someone should have warned her that apes have notoriously small penises.
Sorry, say that again, Richard.
Someone should have warned her that apes have notoriously small penises.
Okay, thanks. I'm not sure you're allowed to say penis on the show.
That's not swearing.
Well, I don't know. It might.
It's a body part.
I know, but some people out there might be
of a sensitive nature.
They might not like that particular word. So no saying that.
Apes are hung like chipmunks. Yeah.
We've had worse on the show. Okay, so welcome to the show, Jackie. It's great to have you back. Jackie Tonks was on the show last year. She was one of our first guests, one of our best guests. So tell us a little bit about your background. Take us back to a little bit about what you were talking about the last time you were on.
Yeah, I mean, as I said, one of the reasons I'm really into this, I watched L.C. Clarke's Mysterious World as a child, and that got me into this, really, this sort of iconic Patterson Gimlin film of the ape walking across the creek, which, at the time people used to say, oh, it's fake. But now, the sort of, the understanding, and primatologists particularly, and locomotion experts are saying that, that is the real thing. You're actually seeing, because people say there's no images of it, and yet there is. That is supposedly, a Bigfoot. That's what they look like. And I'll be talking later, obviously, about what I saw, which was actually very similar to that.
As someone who knows a bit about the anatomy of apes and has worked closely with them, I think the thing in the Patterson Gimlin footage is certainly not a man in a monkey suit. It's an ape of some sort.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing, it shows stretch. You can see the sort of, and they had no stretch fabric in the time that was taken. So that's in itself proves that is not man in a suit, because they did not have anything that stretched. And there's actually been shown they can actually see tendon and sort of ligament damage underneath that the creature had obviously got, but wouldn't have been something you would have faked. And because it was very macho culture as well, they wouldn't have had it's obviously a female Bigfoot because it's got breasts. They would have had a very masculine Bigfoot. So the fact that it's a female Bigfoot as well, and they've tried to copy the stride, and the dimensions are all wrong as well. And
if you're going to fake a Sasquatch sighting, and you get a big guy and put him in a gorilla suit, where in the equation do you think of putting big hairy breasts on it?
Exactly. It just doesn't fit with the culture at all.
Known species of apes have flat breasts. One of the reasons human women have pendulous breasts is to counterbalance the buttock muscles, the gluteus maximus, the muscle, because we're upright, we're bipeds. We have these buttock muscles to help us work the tendons in our legs to walk, and because women have wider hips because of the birth canal, they have larger, rounder buttocks. So one of the reasons why they have pendulous breasts is to counterbalance that.
And there's Sasquatch are upright walking, so that would make sense.
So do you want to just give just a quick description of what this footage is, just for people who haven't seen it?
Yeah, I mean, people can easily see it on YouTube if they go put in Patterson and Gimlin film, or Bigfoot, or Patty.
So that's Patterson and Gimlin.
Yeah, but she's called Patty. They actually is nicknamed her Patty, but it's by Patterson and Gimlin. I'll be talking, actually was lucky enough to meet Gimlin at the conference, so I'll be talking about that later.
And this is footage in Northern California.
Yeah, this was taken in Northern California in Bluff Creek, yeah. And my site, I'm talking about later, we actually discovered, I didn't know this until I actually went to the conference. My friend was one of the Tom Cantrell, one of the speakers. He actually calculated, we actually looked exactly where we were on the map with my site, and we were actually about 2.5-3 miles from the original Patty shot, you know, the Bob Patterson Gimlin shot, so, which is amazing. So what I saw could have actually been related to Patty, which, if she is, you know, I'm pretty sure she's real, which is pretty amazing, you know.
Yeah. So people can check out this footage. This is probably one of the most famous Bigfoot images, Bigfoot captured footage, filmed footage.
And it's been stabilised.
Yeah.
It was pretty, you know, all the modern technology have been able to stabilise it, and you can get a pretty clear view of us.
So you can check that out on YouTube. Tell us. Let's go into your trip to the States recently, and you've been talking about it a little bit. What were you mainly doing down there? Why this trip? Why now? Why this time of year?
Well, this was the Sasquatch Summit in Ocean Shores, and that's was in November 2015, and it's sort of in the top of the Olympic Peninsula of Washington State, which is actually quite a famous spot for Bigfoot sightings. There's a sort of road going up there, they call sort of Bigfoot Highway, Sasquatch Highway, the biggest number of sightings in the whole, you know, the whole of America, basically on that road. So it's a good spot to have it, and it was, you know, a lot of the top speakers and the researchers in the, you know, the field of study of Sasquatch and Bigfoot, whatever you want to call it. So that was quite exciting for me. Obviously, I knew I was going to meet some of the people I've read about and actually meet them in the flesh and hear them speak, which is really exciting.
And can you tell us about some of the speakers you saw then, and what they were talking about?
Yeah, I mean, there was sort of, you know, some of the long time people. There was John Bindernagel, who's an amazing zoologist from Canada, and, you know, he's worked in forestry. You know, he was a very well-known zoologist before he got into the, you know, the Bigfoot Sasquatch phenomena. And, you know, he's very respected, you know, and he was just talking about, you know, the general sort of evidence for Sasquatch, all the signs of Sasquatch. They were showing this very bizarre thing they do, which seems to be a marker, where they sort of twist branches, almost like a territory marker, and they're quite interesting to see. They almost look plaited, some of them, which is quite interesting, isn't it, Richard? Because there's actually the Almas, like the Russian Yeti, has been found to do that as well.
Well, one of the things the Almasti is supposed to do is plait the manes of horses.
Yeah.
Now, I always thought this was a folkloric thing, because they say that fairies plait the manes of horses as well in Europe, and if a horse is left in a field overnight, it's going to get plaited mane, probably by brushing up against things. But my friend, the biologist Gregory Panchenko, was investigating an Almasti that was supposed to come into a barn at night and plait the mane of an elderly mare, and he put some food out and hid under some hay and waited for it, and he fell asleep, and he woke up to hear a sort of twittering noise and something sounding like it was smacking its lips, and he saw that all the food had gone, and there was what he said was a young Almasti, maybe a teenage Almasti, plaiting the hair of this horse that was tethered in the barn. And the horse didn't seem to mind, and when it had sufficiently amused itself, it jumped up onto a beam in the barn and then out through the window, and he was only about 10 feet away from it at the time.
Because I understand that they sort of thought to be an evolved Homo erectus, are they?
Well, originally, when they had the what they called the Snowman Commission in the 1950s, and back then they thought that they were surviving Neanderthals, but we didn't know as much about Neanderthals as we do today. We know that Neanderthals are very sophisticated. They had fire. and if you washed a Neanderthal, shaved it, and put it in a suit, it could walk down a high street in any major city, and they would not really raise many eyebrows. People might think they were a bit ugly by our standards, but I think women from Nuneaton are a bit ugly, to be honest, and most of the blokes as well, including me. But clearly the Elmast is not a Neanderthal. It's bigger, it's more primitive, and one theory is that it is an early offshoot of Homo erectus. Homo erectus speciated into a number of different hominins, like the Neanderthal, the Denisovians.
Because this was one of the theories at the conference. I mean, I know he wasn't there this time, but Professor Jeff Meldrum, who's an expert on primate locomotion, he sort of feels it possibly might be a robust form of Homo erectus, pretty large form of it. And it was interesting at the conference, there was a gentleman called Mitchell Townsend who's with some friends has been sort of studying these sort of stacked bones that they've found, and there's only 3 animals that actually stack bones. One's a wolverine, which is a very sort of large weaselly type animal, mustelid, that is in the area of the Sasquatch, but there's also the other animals that stack bones are humans and apes, and they've been finding these bone stacks in conjunction with Bigfoot footprints, and they've been analysing them. I actually got to handle some of these. Well, I had to handle them so I didn't actually touch them and contaminate them with any DNA, just in case they decided to test them. But they was finding these great big teeth marks on them, like somebody would nibbling across a spare rib. So it looked like, seemed to be evidence that something had been holding them with hands. And the way they also looked at the actual scene of the kill, and they looked like they'd been broken off with a hand, the ribs. But the amazing thing was they'd actually got incisor marks and canine marks that were very, very similar to humans. And I can't remember which. I think it was the incisor or the canine, but one of them most closely matched human, and one most closely Neanderthal. It was matched Neanderthal. It was, they'd actually compared them to fossil records, which was amazing, really. So, but they were twice the size of a human tusk or canine, which is quite interesting. So. Because this is what we need, really. We need more sort of scientific evidence. I mean, another interesting talk there was this sort of the Olympic project, which is Tom Baker was talking, not Tom Baker, Doctor Who, Richard, don't get excited, but Tom Baker from the Olympic project, Sasquatch study up there, and they're trying to figure out exactly, when's the most likely time to see a Sasquatch, because there are an awful lot of sightings every year. There's thousands of sightings. I think most of them go unreported because people are just too embarrassed to talk about it, because they have fun made of them. But I think programs like Finding Bigfoot and all that, the stigma starts to be taken away. No people realising, this might be a serious animal. And then they're actually trying to sort of, trying to identify when's the best time to see it, how to see it, and they're finding out June to September. August is an extremely common time to see them. Also, the berries, from what I understand, are around them, and there seem to be some evidence that it's quite easy to spot Bigfoot around that time because they're distracted, and it's quite difficult you have to concentrate to pick berries, so you can more easily spot them then. But also, they found a really good time about 3 o'clock between 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning. If you're on a road and if the light's very low, they seem to be. There's some evidence they're nocturnal. The ones I saw were about 3:45 in the afternoon. It was very light then. Still, but the most likely, they're mainly nocturnal. So they're trying to find, all these different sort of what likelihoods of seeing them, and it was very similar with the snow leopard. I mean, they almost, apart from skins, they were almost, it was almost like a mythical status. Now they know that the habits of snow leopards so easily they can catch one within about day or two. So, you know, hopefully this will happen with the Bigfoot, although I'm a bit worried about it being caught. You know, it might be a very rare animal, and if we do find it's a real animal, like, what's the impact going to be on it, really? It's difficult.
Yeah, very good question. It's, I think, a very important question, and we're going to hopefully talk about some environmental issues also later on. Since obviously we're damaging, I mean, if it does exist, we're obviously damaging its habitat to some degree, and cutting down forests, where's it going to go? Okay, great. So let's listen to a little bit of music, and Jackie has provided us with a Bigfoot playlist. So we're going to play some of her music, and so you can just tell us a little bit about why you chose these particular songs. So we've got 3 songs coming up. We have Kate Fletcher, Valley Song. We have Serious Kitchen, Two Magicians, and Ash Dargan Uluru. So do you want to just...
Kate's song, Kate's friend of mine, amazing, beautiful song, you know, about being in the forest, being in a valley, and I think, you know, you do in the American forests, they are so beautiful, and they're so vast. I mean, I think that's when I first went out, you know, you just don't realise how big they are, and, you know, when you do realise how big they are, realise the likelihood something unknown could be in there. It's a beautiful song by Kate, from I think her album Fruit, from what I recall.
Yeah, that's right.
And then the other song, there's the Serious Kitchen song about the two magicians. There's a lot of myths and legends about Bigfoot's shape-shifting from the Native Americans, and I think some of this is because they're so damn fast. You know, they can move 30-40 miles an hour and just disappear, and the undergrowth grows quite thick as well. But like the Native American legends say, they can disappear, shape-shift, you know. But this song particularly is the shape-shifting song about shape-shifting in the English culture, because it's not just Native Americans. There's actually a lot of medieval times particularly, it was still quite highly believed that people could shape-shift and transform themselves. And the last song it's Ash Dargan. It's actually about Uluru in Australia. Ash Dargan is amazing. He actually lives in Boulder, Colorado now, but his grandmother's from Devon actually, he's partly Australian Aboriginal, but he's playing the Native American flute, and it's absolutely stunning playing, and, you know, obviously very influenced by sort of looking at the Native American culture around the Bigfoot, so I thought that was quite an appropriate
Well, thanks very much for that, Jackie. It's great music, and we're going to be back in a couple of minutes after that. Jackie's going to be talking more about her own experiences in the woods, hanging out in the woods, and seeing Bigfoot herself, so stay tuned.
Come to the valley. rise from the mountain, the immovable mountain, bathe in the waters, these emerald waters, high in the mountain, if high you will go, walk in the forest, wash in the river, laugh in the meadow, or weep in the cave, breathe in the spirit, come to the valley and walk in the forest, wash in the river, laugh in the meadow, or weep in the cave, breathe in the spirit, come to the valley and sing.
Bide, lady, bide, there's nowhere you can hide. A rusty smith will be your love, and that'll pull down your pride. A lady stood in a bower door, as straight as a willow wand, and a blacksmith he stood a little nearby, with a hammer in his hand. Well, may you do rest, you lady fair, all in your robes of red, but before the dawn at this same time I'll gain your maidenhead. But she has holden up her hand, as she swore by the mould, I would not be a blacksmith's wife for all a chest of gold. But he has holden up his hand, and he swore by the mass, I'll make you be my light lover for half of that and less. Singing, bide, lady, bide, there's nowhere you can hide. A rusty smith will be your love, and that'll pull down your pride. She's turned herself into a dove and flew up in the air, and he became another dove, and they flew pair and pair, singing, bide, lady, bide, there's nowhere you can hide. A rusty smith will be your love, and that'll pull down your pride. She's turned herself into an eel to swim in yonder burn, and he became a speckled trout to give that eel a turn, singing, bide, lady, bide, there's nowhere you can hide. A rusty smith will be your love, and that'll pull down your pride. She turned herself into a hare and ran upon the hill, and he became a good greyhound, and boldly he did fill, singing, bide, lady, bide, there's nowhere you can hide. A rusty smith will be your love, and that'll pull down your pride. She turned herself into a mare and stood in yonder slack, and he became a gilt saddle and sat upon her back, singing, bide, lady, bide, there's nowhere you can hide. A rusty smith will be your love, and that'll pull down your pride. She turned herself into a silk and stretched upon the bed, and he became a green coverlet and gained her maidenhead, singing, bide, lady, bide, there's nowhere you can hide. A rusty smith will be your love, and that'll pull down your pride. She was so, he held her so, and still he bade her bide. A rusty smith her lover was, for all her muckle pride, singing, bide, lady, bide, there's nowhere you can hide. A rusty smith will be your love, and that'll pull down your pride, singing, bide, lady, bide, there's nowhere you can hide. A rusty smith will be your love, and that'll pull down your pride.
This is our heart, the heart of our land. This is our heart, the heart of our land.
on 106.8. This is advert-free Phonic FM.
Hello, welcome back to the show. This is Exe Files Paranormal Radio on Phonic FM 106.8 and www.phonic.fm, where you can listen online anywhere in the world. My name is Alison Rockbrand. I'm here with my co-host Richard Freeman and our special guest Jackie Tonks. Hello, Jackie.
Hello, hi.
Hi, thank you very much for that music. We have just been listening to Kate Fletcher, Valley Song, Serious Kitchen, Two Magicians, and Ash Dargan Uluru. These are Jackie's Bigfoot music tracks, which she's very kindly brought in for us. We've just been talking to Jackie Tonks, Bigfoot hunter, about her trip down to the USA to go to a Bigfoot hunting conference, and she's just been talking all about that. And we're going to go, she's going to tell us a little bit about meeting Bob Gimlin, who is one of the people that filmed the famous Patty Bigfoot footage in Bluff Creek, Northern California. And then she's going to tell us a little bit about her own experiences seeing Bigfoot herself. So take it away, Jackie.
Yeah, I mean, Bob was really somebody who wanted to meet, and I was told, you'll meet Bob and you'll know within 10 minutes that the guy couldn't have faked Patty, because there's been a lot of accusations made that it was, one guy reckoned it was him in a suit, but there's a lot of evidence it wasn't. But I was told, you just meet Bob and you'll just know Bob couldn't have faked it. And you meet Bob and he's just such an amazing, credible guy, really honest, really humble, very, very sort of very devout Christian, very sort of, very good man who, is really honest and wants to do the right thing, really. And, he said he's been ridiculed over the years, but, with Bigfoot, people now seem to start to accept that Bigfoot exists. He said he just loves going to the conferences, and he's very humble about it. Said he just loves, being able to meet all these people and, chat to people. And he's a really nice guy, and he's an amazing character. I mean, I think he's 84 now, and he still rodeo rides. I mean, he's amazingly, fit guy for his age.
And Patterson died, didn't he?
Patterson unfortunately died of cancer in the 70s. He actually had just come out, was in remission of cancer when he took the Patty shot, and he was the guy actually holding the camera. Gimlin was the one who helped get him out there. And I think at one point the horse startled and Patterson was thrown, and Bob sort of helped grab the horse, and help sort of steady him so he could actually take the shot, from what I understand. I mean, they've been tracking it for days. They didn't just see it come out, they've been tracking it for days. There's a bit of ambiguity how many Bigfoots there were. I mean, Bob told me that there was just one set of tracks. Some people feel there more, but he said no, there was one set of tracks. One thing I asked him, have you seen any Bigfoot since? And he said he hasn't directly seen it, but he was camping once and he's pretty sure there was one standing in the shadows. There was something, he sort of he could just about see something move out of view, and he feels something was there, and he thinks that's the only other time that he was lucky enough to see a Bigfoot. But it was an honour to meet him. Lovely man.
And so you were down there in roughly the same area where the Patty.
Yeah, I mean, my sighting was 2.5 to 3 miles from exactly where Patty was actually filmed. She was filmed in the late 60s. And we didn't realise how close we were till my friend actually got a map and looked exactly where we were on the road, so it was quite a shock to realise how close we were. And as I said, it's quite amazing to think the ones we saw, they looked like males. They were incredibly fast. When I first saw them, I thought, because they were completely upright. They were moving incredibly fast. They just came up from a very steep slope right in front of the car. It was, very, daylight, so you could see them really clearly. Initially, I thought they're men in a really strange, all-in-one sort of mechanics pull-on, the throwaway overalls you get, dark overalls, and I thought but they don't look right for that. They were going incredibly fast, about 30 miles an hour. They went up a slope opposite. It was a big logging road, so we got a good view of them, enough for 2 logging trucks to go side by side. And they shot the slope. It was burnt out trees for 30 miles. They panicked, came back down in front of the car, and they spent having to slam on the brakes. So we were very close to them. I was bracing myself for an impact. Actually, I thought they were going to come on the bonnet at one point, and then suddenly they hesitated just for a second, and we got really good look at them. Very Neanderthal type. I mean, you know, as I joked that they looked like a really ugly Xavier Bardem. And I've since actually, Richard, you showed me an image, didn't you? Of
the Sykesville monster. Yeah, the Sykesville monster was a creature that was sighted, I believe, in the late 70s, early 80s, and a number of people saw this, including a guy called Lon Strickler, who does a blog called Monsters and Phantoms, and he made a reconstruction of it. I think he said the closest thing it looked to was Homo habilis, but it was much, much bigger. And he said that afterwards they got the police involved, and then the National Guard turned up, and the police as well were sort of shooed out of the way, and he said, I'm one of the people that reported this. I saw the creature, and then they just told him to basically sling his hook. So that there's as if they were like a big concerted effort to try and find this, whatever it was, and keep it out of the public eye.
Yeah, I mean, what the image I saw, I mean, it can be found. You can easily look it up. Just put Sykesville monster on, on Google, and you see the image. And Richard showed it me, and I'd been describing my sighting to him a lot of times, and he suddenly went, "Oh, have you looked at the Sykesville monster?" And I actually went pale, because it's exactly what I saw. The nose I saw was slightly more human-like, but everything else about it was identical.
So you're saying you saw a group of them as well?
I saw two of them, yeah. They look like males. My friend who's seen a lot of them, he's been Bigfooting for over 40 years now, Tom Control, he's one, my mentor really. He's also lectured at the conference as well, and written quite a few books. He sort of, he said that they're two males. He reckoned it was an older male and a younger male, but it's just amazing. It just took, my brain just couldn't cope for days. I'm going, I didn't see that, and Tom goes, yes you did. I didn't see that, yes you did. Third day I just went into shock, couldn't stop shaking, and it's just really freaky seeing something you think might be mythical right in front of the car. It's sort of quite a shock, really.
But you were out there clearly looking for it.
I was, but there's still that doubt in your mind till you see one. It's like your friend, isn't it, Dave Archer? He saw the Orang Pendek, which is a smaller upright ape from Sumatra. That he's actually seen that, and he was quite in shock, wasn't he? He just couldn't come to terms with it.
Were you camping in the woods?
That time, yeah. That was, we were camping for 10 days. We were in the middle of nowhere. We were down a very long logging road. I think it was 50 miles long, the logging road. It was very long. I know to get to the nearest town it was 60 miles, village really, not really town. But I know Willow Creek, it's like sort of big towny village, but it's like 60 miles away. So you get the sense of how big these areas are really. I mean, logging road 40 miles long, that's from Exeter to Plymouth. That's a long way, so you get the sense these animals can hide from people, if you've got that sort of, America's a massive place. So I mean, there's some really interesting stuff really coming out trying to find them. I mean, there's obviously people trying to get DNA samples from sort of hair and the things they find, but there's something that's the Falcon Project. Guy's been trying to get together some money in conjunction at one point with Jeff Meldrum, the guy I mentioned, Professor Jeff Meldrum. He's sort of a primate locomotion expert, trying to get money to use army drones to try to find them, which might be an effective method. I don't know. People had some of the cheaper drones. I mean, they're still pretty expensive. At the conference, we're actually flying them over us as we were in the conference, and we had drones coming right up to your face, which they're amazing things nowadays. I mean, when they first brought out, they'd crash all the while, but they can actually come right up to you and then move away so they don't hit you. They're just amazing, and if they run out of battery, they'll detect it and bring themselves home without you you're bringing them home so they don't crash. Oh, they're just amazing. I mean, if they're in, they really are cool things.
Do you think this new technology is going to actually find some more evidence?
I mean, we're hoping, yeah. I mean, the studies of the footprints, there's some really detailed studies been done on the footprints. I mean, I made friends with Toby Johnson when I was out there, who were hoping to get on the show, actually. He's an amazing chap. And he goes out with his son, and he has a sort of thing on YouTube and the internet called On Track, and him and his son go out looking for sort of Bigfoot. But he was one really lucky to be called in. A sort of friend called him and told him that this trackway of Bigfoot prints had been found, and this was in London, in Oregon, and there was over, I think it was 122 or over 100 anyway, absolutely loads of tracks, and they had to literally cast them quickly in case the weather destroys them, and they had to call, people, Tom Powell, who's quite famous, but he came out, there was quite a few of them from the Oregon team, all sort of trying to cast these things. There were absolutely loads of them, and there were 3 individuals. There seemed to be a younger one and 2 other ones of different sizes, so it's quite an amazing find if they're real. There didn't seem to be much evidence they were faked, but that's quite amazing. But we've got all this information, and the information suggests that these tracks, they follow the expected distribution that you'd expect from a real population rather than a faked population, which is all quite exciting. They've even got dermal ridges, which are like the footprints thing on the bottom of the feet, and there's experts looked to them, said you get a lot of fakes as well, but a lot of them aren't faked, which they don't appear to be faked anyway.
We've just got a couple of minutes left, but you wanted to talk a little bit about some of the environmental issues.
There's a lot of, it's just so, the conference, it wasn't the thing of does this thing exist, it's just that we know it exists. Loads of us had seen it there, and there was almost everybody had seen it at this conference, and there's a lot of people at the conference. It's not about, it's like, what do we do with this? And I think that the government is so resistant because it is in logging areas, and there was an owl, do you remember the species? Spotted owl found in I think it was Oregon, wasn't it? And they lost absolute, I think it was billions to the economy because they had to stop logging in the area.
There are rumours that the same thing's going on in Tasmania with a thylacine.
Well, that's it, yeah. And there's big money to be made in these things. So, with the Bigfoot, they're very reluctant, I think, to actually admit it's there because they'll have to, stop logging. I think, there's a few, state laws about shooting it, so you don't get that about unicorns, do you? Mythical animals, so they know it's there. And I think my friend Tom Contral, he's a logger and a Bigfooter, he's an ex-logger and a Bigfooter, he reckons the actual logging protects it. It's not like a bird that's got a nest. They can move out the way with a young, so it's not, he reckons it protects it, and also the logging creates more habitat for it to get food when they clear. So, but there is issues with other cryptids, like the orang-pendek ecliptic in Sumatra. You've been, Richard, and they're just destroying the habitat.
The national park, Country Sublike National Park, is about the size of Wales, but on all sides there's not just logging, but the thing that I see are getting bigger and bigger every year is tea and coffee plantations around there that are encroaching on it steadily.
And I think very strongly, we've obviously got the fracking issue at the moment in England, and that could cause complete devastation, massive amount of really toxic, quite a few of them cancerous chemicals, and I think it's something really we strongly think it's not just in America and other other countries where we've got serious threats here. And I think the song I'm going to end on really is one by Dan the Bard, about it's a sort of campaign song really about we need to stand up to this really and to stop this happening. And Sons and Daughters of Robin Hood, the song.
Yeah, we're going to hear that in just a minute. Thank you very much, Jackie. You've been fantastic. It's been absolutely very, very fascinating hearing your stories of seeing Bigfoot. Really chilling tale. And are you planning on going back anytime?
Yeah. I mean, I'm planning going back again for the conference next year and do a bit of Bigfooting beforehand. I've made some friends there, and we're going to try to sort of meet up. And you know, it's one of these things. Once you start, I mean, the first time I went out with people, I started to think, you know, 97% think this thing exists. Once you've seen it, it's just completely addictive. You want to just, you know, part of you wants to get the evidence, another bit of you doesn't, because you're thinking, what's the impact of if it is found to be a real animal? You know,
if it's found to be of the genus Homo, rather than an ape, what if it's a primitive form of man? Well, then what rights does it have?
Well, that's it. I mean, California's actually
does it get the vote?
Well, that's it. what California's actually got a law that against shooting it, and it says if it's found to be a rare ape, you might get prosecuted for shooting a rare animal, and if it's found to be a hominid and very human-like, which the thing I saw, what I felt was, you might actually get had for murder, and they've actually got that in law.
Yeah.
So it's quite an interesting idea, really, isn't it? You know, what is it? I mean, my friend Tom Cantrell believes strongly in his book here, he's actually called his book Sasquatch Search for a New Man. He strongly believes it's a man. And at the conference, they were also, you know, another thing they were talking about was the sort of language. They've recorded some language, the Sierra Sound recordings from the 70s, and there's other ones since, of something that sounds like a very primitive language. And I was very sceptical, but when they've analysed these, it's actually the same. It's in between frequency of an ape and a human, so they do seem to be genuine. And you can hear those. If you go on Sierra Sounds, you'll get onto Ron Moorhead's website, and it's quite freaky. They do sound like what you predict of a hominid, you know, starting to use language, you know.
Yeah, so lots of interesting stuff to follow up on, and lots of interesting research to come, it sounds like.
Yeah, definitely. There's lots of exciting stuff, and yeah.
Well, thank you very much, Jackie Tonks, Bigfoot hunter. It's been just fascinating having you. Next week we have a psychogeographer on. Richard, do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Phil Smith, psychogeographer, also known as the Crab Man. He'll be talking about psychogeography and his new book and his other books. So tune in for that.
So tune in to that next week, and thank you very much, Jackie. Thank you very much, Richard. And we are going to take you out with Jam the Bard, Sons and Daughters of Robin Hood. See you next week.
Watched you on our TV. Right honourable gentlemen, apparently. Different voices with only one aim: to win my vote and to win the game. Now some have died to pave the way, so we can vote come polling day. X marks the spot that gives us our voice. But how do we vote when there isn't a choice? If you thought that we would do nothing, you've misunderstood. For we are the sons and daughters of Robin Hood. rich, they got richer, the poor were stripped bare. Building new roads with no thought for the land. And the blood of the bean field is still on your hands. Now drilling off Shetland will do you just fine. And you wanted to sell off our forests like you closed down mines. If you thought that we would do nothing, you've misunderstood. For we are the sons and daughters of Robin Hood. Just look away, there's nothing to see here. Oh, England's green and pleasant land is not there to put cash in your hands. I see your symbol is the English oak tree. Is that